for the last 550 years, these people have been working on destroying the idea of nation states, because through nation state you have natural law, you have constitution, you have social welfare, and suddenly people stop working for the governments, and the governments have the obligation to work for the people, which creates wealth on the part of the government and the part of the individuals. And for the first time in history, if you actually look at the population curve, when the population expanded, doubled its size just around the time of Henry VII, because that was the beginning with Louis XI in France, and then a little bit later on, beginning of the 1500s in England, the nation state solidified itself, and mankind, for the first time in history, began winning square kilometers of space and land against nature, something we were never able to do before. So the impetus of the Bilderbergers of the New World Order, the money elite, has always been to destroy the human spirit, because people who are free, are independent, will not allow somebody to subjugate them as easily as what you see right now around us. Lately I've had to improvise, because again, you have two things. You have one, which is infinite growth, and the other, which is finite energy supplies. The whole idea behind the eliminating nuclear energy as a valid source of energy is that it allows third world nations to free themselves from the yokes of the New World Order, the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. If I'm the third world nation with the nuclear energy, I don't need their handouts, which means they don't have me, which means they don't have my lands. I'm not mortgaging my lands to them in return for the energy, or in return for money to have the energy, and I can literally be a free individual, a free nation. That's a no-go as far as the Bilderbergers are concerned, which is why they destroyed Argentina in such a way when they were supplying nuclear energy to Mexico. It what became known as the Falklands War, which of course was a big farce. So the idea is, however, now, for the first time they're admitting that nuclear energy just might be the way to go, because, well, the planned destruction wholesale destruction of the planet has to be organized and controlled. If it gets out of control, then suddenly they don't have the hands on the outcome. So they must control which energy sources are being used in what way. And unfortunately right now we're running out of energy much faster than they can react. So nuclear energy suddenly again becomes one of the primary sources that everybody's talking about.
The National Security Memorandum 200, called the Kissinger Memorandum, articulated the primary policy, 1974, articulated the primary policy. The problem we face is overpopulation. To what degree do you think the Bilderbergers are addressing this problem?
Well, actually, the Kissinger Memorandum was a plagiarized version of Gian Maria Ortiz's version. Gian Maria Ortiz was a Venetian monk who had formed part of the Venetian black nobility, who talked about this 200 years before that, exactly the same thing. And the Kissinger version, the famous Memorandum 200, is just a plagiarized version of that.
The question is, who cares what the origin is? The point is that these guys pick up shit from everywhere, and they run with it. They talk about surviving in a post-industrial world and bringing about a post-industrial world. What is a post-industrial world look like?
Post-industrial world looks exactly the way it did 200 years ago. If you want something, you just go to your friend or your next door neighbor, you give him cheese, he helps you with your computer, you give him milk and he does something for you, or if somebody cleans your house, you go and walk their dog. It's in a world where you won't have money, because again, money ultimately loses all value when you don't have energy supply, because money, all it means is the ability to do work. Without energy, there is no money. When there is no money, or unless you have local currency, which is a very good solution on a very local scale, unfortunately, I don't see that working on a global scale, because the global elites, the Bilderbergers, simply will not allow that kind of thing to prosper. Zbigniew Brzezinski talks about it in his book, The Electronic Age. He's saying exactly that. He's saying In the near future, we're going to have the slaves and the slave owners. These are the words he uses. So again, you don't have middle class because you won't have middle class doing, middle class works. The poor, they do basic things, and the rich have money. And the middle class are the ones who have to do all the work. Well, when you don't have jobs because you don't have economy, you won't need middle class. You just need people to clean your toilet, and others who are going to be the slave owners, exactly as you had 500 years ago when you had people working the fields dying, others working the field for them, until the nation state was created in 1439, 1440 through the Treaty of Florence. First of all, we have inside sources from members of the Bilderberg elite. They have been passing us information for now 10 years, more or less. Second of all, none of the stuff I do or say is hearsay, and you could see it as a result of all these years of investigation. Although all the evidence I have given ahead of time, predictions as to the things that will happen. A couple of years ago, again, over the years we've talked about, in 1996 that the Bilderbergers were planning the war in Kosovo. That was 3 years before the war happened. A year and a half before, Jane, which is Jane's, is the premier investigative magazine in the world. They announced that there's a war, being organized for Kosovo. We talked about it in 1996. A couple of years ago in Germany, we said that Angela Merkel is going to be the president of the country before Angela Merkel was even the elected candidate for her party. In 2002, I said the oil is going to go up to about $100 a barrel. At the time, it was 20-something, I think 27 or $32 a barrel. Again, these people talked about it because that's what they do. When they get to these meetings, they work very, very hard at bringing all these important issues out into the open. And they said, this thing is going up, we're running out, we have so many years left, which means that we're going to be at about $100 a barrel. And then a couple of years later, Goldman Sachs in 2004 or 5 came out with their report for their top shareholders, 1% of their top shareholders exclusively, where they talked about the same thing. We're looking at a possibility of oil going to $105 a barrel. That was 2.5 years after we predicted that. Gold, that's another thing. Last year, after the 2006 meeting in Canada, in Canada, we said that that gold at the time was, I think, priced at $425 an ounce. So this thing is going to about 700, 750. It's 770 right now. It doubled its value in 1 year. We predicted a year ago that the financial markets, and especially the housing market, is going to collapse, not only in the United States, but in Spain. Both of them collapsed at the same time, March, April 2007. This list, there are hundreds of these things I can name off. I don't even remember most of them. They're all written down somewhere, but I just can't. There are just too many. Do you know what I mean? So that's one of the ways we do it, through the sources we have, contrasting information. We also talk to the people who are members, not only of the Bilderbergers, but of the Aspen Institute, Trilateral Commission, CFR. We get access to all of their reports and documents. We've been following them for many, many years. And then we also work in other fields as well, such as the energy field, with a lot of energy experts who are no way at all related to the Bilderberger scientists, who only work with hard data and hard numbers. And these people, all of them, are saying the same thing. We are at peak, and the society is about to change. In the 1990s, early 1990s, companies were spending 30% of their benefit in research and development and looking for new oil fields. Right now, I think it's about 5 or 6%. If you're talking about oil fields, and this is oil fields generate energy and wealth for the companies, they should be spending more money, not less. If they're spending less because they know that they will never recoup their investment, tankers. If we have so much oil, why are these people decommissioning tankers and not building new ones to supply all this oil to the markets? Do you know what I mean? There's just too many proofs. The same thing for refineries. They're not building any refineries. And you say to yourself, we have so much oil, but how are you going to get it from point A to point B?
But you're talking about their objective to lower population numbers, right? So what better to pull off a scam by saying peak oil, lower the numbers, stop investment, no more tankers, nothing. We just shut the whole thing down and everybody will believe this goddamn thing, that peak oil exists.
Well, unfortunately, again, you have two things. One is the infinite growth. You can only have that with energy. And the other one is the finite energy supply. And if we're not running out of energy, then the world is sure acting as if we were.